Alright, Victorum Gaming fans and SPQR fans, we are back and we are continuing in our review of the special scenarios for Germania here. This is video 2 of 3. So this one is called The Trees Are Alive, which is a little bit of a recreation here, I think, of the battle in the Teutoburg forest. So really fun scenario though, lots of interesting things here, so it's definitely a little bit different than the normal kind of kill 'em all thing. So war bands, equal size war bands as normal. The enemy is the defender, so they are stuck in the middle there, and then the Germanic player is the attacker, which you can see off to the side there. So on the setup part of it, so before either warband is deployed, as many pieces of forest terrain as possible should be placed on the table. However, paths 3 to 4 inches wide should be left between the forest terrain pieces to create 2 or 3 clear tracks. The defending player deploys all their models first. The Germanic player then deploys all their models. However, he need only deploy 1 unit of warriors if his warband has any. Any other warrior units in his warband may be deployed normally at this time, or he may declare they are hiding within the trees. And then the Germanic player gets the first phase here. So this is definitely going to be a brutal mission for the defender here. Several advantages for the German player. So on the special rules side of it, and there's a lot of text for this mission, so definitely worth taking it slow here just to make sure you get everything. Warrior units that the German player has declared are hiding within the trees are not deployed on the table at the start of the battle. Instead, the Germanic player can secretly choose any forest terrain piece that is not in the defender's deployment zone as the starting position for each unit. He should make a note of which forest terrain piece each unit's in, so he can show the defending player later. So definitely would be worth writing down and again marking kind of roughly where it is on the table. So definitely honesty is going to be a key thing here. Between both players there. So in each Germanic phase, these hidden warrior units may be secretly moved to any other forest terrain piece that's within 6 of their current position. Again, this should be written down so the Germanic player can show his opponent every move the hidden units made throughout the game. The Germanic player can reveal any of his hidden units at the start of any of his phases simply by revealing his notes as to where they are and then placing the models on the table. They may perform actions normally in this phase. However, there's always the chance that these hidden units will be discovered by the enemy. If any model in the defending force completes an action within 6 inches of any terrain piece which contains a hidden unit, every model then is immediately placed on the table. Also, this is very familiar ground for the Germanic warband. Whenever one of the warband's warrior units is moving through forest terrain, it may make an immediate agility check. If successful, the forest does not count as difficult terrain for the rest of the phase, so that's a pretty cool little bonus there. And what might help too, which they don't necessarily say here, but depending on how many trees you got, though, it might be worth like creating a rough map of the battlefield and then just like numbering the different tree terrain pieces, assuming it's not like all individual trees, like maybe like bigger sections of trees. That way it's just a little bit easier to keep track of where each unit's going, as opposed to making it maybe a little bit difficult to record all that stuff, especially if they're moving between trees. And then victory conditions. So how do you win here? So the attacker will claim victory if he can destroy every infantry unit in the Dacian and Sarmatian warband, which looks like we got a little bit of a typo here, because we don't really care about Dacians and Sarmatians here. This is just a Germanic mission, so they wouldn't necessarily be fighting Dacians. Basically destroying all the enemy infantry, either through injury or failure of will to fight. So, which again could require some modification, because again, what if the defender is an all cavalry list? Well, then the German player can't win. So some things to consider there, and maybe possibly modify depending on what's going on, and certainly ignoring that typo there, which I hadn't actually noticed before. But yeah, this has nothing to do with Dacians and Sarmatians, so necessarily. I mean, it could be the defender, but not necessarily here. And then basically, there's no turn structure to this, so what can the defender do to basically win? So you might come up with some possible solutions there. So ideally, it would make sense probably if the defender can get their units off the board, would be like one way I would probably think of modifying this, or I guess possibly forcing the Germanic player to flee with their units, I guess would be one way of surviving, certainly. So, but this could be a really fun scenario if, there's a lot of time and setup put into it. And again, the obvious requirement of a lot of tree terrain. So you might not have that much. So could you try this with other things? Sure, maybe like just lots and lots of hills to maybe form different little paths and valleys and stuff like that. But certainly some trees are going to be necessary just to be able to hide the troops in. So on the tactic side, the Germanic player, it would probably be worth putting a few units down in your actual German deployment zone, but then trying to basically deploy your other warrior units in the trees in a way to basically maybe funnel the defender towards your deployment zone, and then just kind of surround them and then wipe them out if possible. You really don't want the defender to break out, but again, the mission definitely requires a little bit of tweaking there. So just to give the defender maybe some realistic way of winning here, aside from just playing until either the Germans are completely wiped out or give up, or you reach a certain time limit or something, or a turn limit. But again, it doesn't really mention that here, so putting a little bit of extra work in just on some of the specifics here would be probably worthwhile. But this is definitely a fun list, and certainly pretty much everything is in the Germans' favor here. That being said, if you are facing some particularly tough troops, that initial sort of impetus of you attacking out of nowhere basically could fall flat if you don't really manage to kill too much, and then the defenders really hit you hard. If you're the defender here, again, because it doesn't really say what you need to do to win, but I would certainly be looking at moving my forces away from the German deployment zone. Now, yeah, that's probably going to take you towards various trees and stuff like that, and smart defenders probably, smart German players probably lined and moved their forces through the trees in such a way to make that difficult for you. But I feel like picking a spot where it's going to be tougher to hit you from every area, but also then sort of not spreading yourself thinly or splitting your army up into multiple sections. That's basically how the Germans would get you here. So sticking together as much as possible for mutual support, and then just picking a direction to go and ideally run out of terrain where the defenders would have put their remaining warrior units and stuff like that, and then somehow sort of building up a formidable battle line. So, or of course you could basically just not move and wait for the Germans to come to you and just maybe try and outlast them. So, various like Roman and Greek lists here, you could basically just go into sort of a square basically of various phalanxes and stuff like that, and just let the Germans sort of bounce off of you as you whittle them down, because they're not going to outlast too much heavy punishment like that. So different things to consider there depending on who the defender is. So some factions will definitely be able to weather that a little bit better than others. But again, with some of the conditions that they mentioned here, right, destroying all the defenders' infantry units. But again, if you bring in all cavalry lists, then there would be no way for the German player to win. Now, and having multiple cavalry units would certainly let you get through the forest pretty quickly too, and maybe get away from where they've got units set up. So things to consider there. If you have a lot of sort of extra skirmisher type units or throwaway units, you might try to just sacrifice them to basically move into as many tree areas as possible, just to force the defender to reveal units as quickly as possible. That way you know where everything is, and you can kind of pick your battles and go from there. So again, very good scenario overall. Definitely a very good test of your defensive skills and what you can do as a sort of a attacker from all sides here if you're the Germans. But again, some issues here just on the writing. So again, the little typo there with the dations and surmations, and just could be a little bit clearer on some of the victory condition features there. But overall, some interesting ideas. So definitely one that's worth trying, regardless of whether you're the German player or have Germans or not. This could be good for pretty much any matchup as a fun what if. So this is mission 2. The trees are alive for the Germania faction in SPQR. And if you could, drop us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already, and then stay tuned for more.